Hello and welcome to In This Corner. I'm James Smith. Muhammad Ali has had a tremendous impact, not only in the sport of boxing, but for society in general. From a personal standpoint, Ali has had a tremendous impact on yours truly from the time I was a little boy when I first met him right up until today. And even at age 72 and long since retired from the sport of boxing, people cannot seem to get enough Ali. There's this infectious, insatiable desire and appetite for all things Ali. And it transcends gender, age, and race, and even religion. People cannot seem to get enough Muhammad Ali. And just when you think you've seen and heard all things Ali, well, get ready for the brand new documentary, I Am Ali.
Hey, G. Yeah. I heard a story, man, goes like this.
My father has a lot of sides, and you hear about the fights. You don't hear about family that much and what that meant to him.
And I remember the moment I fell in love with him when he was make me cry.
What's your dad's name?
Muhammad Ali.
He would always tell me time is going to fly. He could foresee things and knew how important those things would be.
It was unbelievable, the power that this man had.
And the little boy said, I got leukemia. And Ali said, I remember I told you that you are going to beat cancer and I'm going to beat George Foreman. And the little boy said, no, Muhammad, I'm going to meet God. And I'm going to tell him that I know you.
George Foreman, how you doing?
He whispered in my ear, that all you got, George? And that was about all I had.
This is a microphone, and when you get to be a big girl, I'm gonna play this back so you can hear.
I was the Concorde of boxing. I was at a high altitude than the rest, moving faster than the rest, but you just have to get used to riding on jets again. You can't ride Concorde anymore.
He actually said, I don't want you to be like me, I want you to be better than me. How can you be better than the greatest, huh?
You just can't measure that in the word great. It has to be another word created.
I mean, who doesn't know who Muhammad Ali is?
People just feel the love that emanates from him, and people can feel that.
You look beautiful.
I know my mother, she looked at him and she hugged him and then she started to cry and she left the room. She said, well, I looked into his eyes and I saw God.
Muhammad Ali is perhaps the most famous living man on planet Earth. He is without question one of the greatest prize fighters ever and perhaps boxing's greatest heavyweight champion. But there is so much more to this fighter who became known to us all as simply the greatest. Ali was truly a sporting pioneer, a visionary, revolutionary for his acts in the sporting world and with people in general. Like so many great men, there are many layers to Ali. The new feature documentary, I Am Ali, examines and exposes many of these sides through never-before-heard tapes of Ali interacting with his friends, family, and his children. It really uncovers and exposes Ali, not just the fighter, but the father, husband, brother, yes, the entire man. In This Corner was in New York for a pre-screening of I Am Ali, and we sat down at the famed Waldorf Astoria and spoke to three integral figures of the movie. Two of Ali's daughters, Maryum Ali and Hana Ali, and Muhammad Ali's longtime business manager, Gene Kilroy. They talk about Ali, the father, the fighter, and the man. You know, Gene, I'll never forget when I first met Muhammad Ali. 1970, it was before the first Frazier fight, and I'll never forget it. Talk about when you first met Muhammad Ali, that meeting.
Well, I was in the service. I was stationed in Munich, Germany, playing sports. I was the only officer on the athletic scholarship. I played 3 sports, and they needed an officer to go to Rome to sign the pay vouchers. So they asked me to recommend someone, so I recommended myself. And I remember going over there, Eddie Crook, Don Bragg, all the Army athletes on that. And I met at that time Cassius Clay. And he was such a caring person and a good guy. And, you know, he related to the little people, you know. And if they had to pick a mayor out of Olympic Village, it would have been him. Because he was all over the place with his gold medal and all. And, you know, he fought, to get to the Olympics, he fought a guy by the name of Alan Hudson. And I remember Alan Hudson fighting in Europe. He was all the USARA, all the Europe, light heavyweight champion. He would destroy people. Boy, when he got in against Cassius Clay, he gave him a boxing lesson. Unbelievable. Cassius went on to win the gold medal, you know. But I said, this guy must be really something special. And then when I met him, he was just like a little kid, you know, sincere, nice, humble, you know.
A real people person.
Yeah.
Yeah, he made you feel special. I know he did to me as a little boy. Athletes today, I mean, what could they learn from watching this film and studying the life and career, and maybe more importantly, the life of Muhammad Ali?
Do you realize today athletes, the only time you meet them when they're signing autographs at the mall? Now, you live in Las Vegas, you've been around there a while, and when Ali fought in Vegas, first thing we would do is we would go to the hospitals and see the kids in the hospitals and hang out in the coffee shop and meet with the people and all. His training camp was open to everybody. It was the best show in Vegas. Go see him work out. He'll spar, have fun, you know, talk to everybody. Today, you don't get to see the fighters. You don't, I mean, they don't, it's unbelievable how they're getting away what they do. Today, if Muhammad Ali was fighting, he having breakfast with his wife, closed circuit, would be bigger than their fights today. You know, unbelievable. Well, it was better than a ringside seat. You know, a ringside seat, you got to go when the fight's over. To be part of the victory and part of the defeat, you know, that was a special thing. You know, be right there.
I want to introduce a longtime advisor of the champ, Kilroy. He's going to be our only spokesperson today. Gene?
It's nice to be here. Looking back over my life, somebody asked me one time, do you have any fear? I said, the only fear I have is that someday my mother's going to wake me up and say it's time to go to school, that my life has been a dream. With Muhammad Ali, I've been blessed to be around that man. There are multi-millionaires who would have given $1 million to be with Ali every day like I've been with him.
Talk about the inner circle. You and I were speaking earlier about the real inner circle of Ali, the Gene Kilroys and Bundini Brown and Youngblood. Talk about that inner circle. And
well,
who's left? Not many.
No, there's only myself, Rahman Ali, and Abdul Rahman. But the inner circle, I mean, I was with Ali when he was fighting, when he wasn't fighting. You know, I've been around them all the time. There was no person closer on planet Earth. Then he'd say, we're going to camp, we're going to do this, let's do this. We'll get all the sparring partners, get all the rent-a-cars. You know, I'm the one that came up with the idea to have a training camp. He was down in Miami training, paying a lot of money, training in a gym that didn't even have a shower.
The street.
You know, I said, well, you should have your own. And then I put him with Pete Marek Mitchell, the accountant firm, and we learned how to, this was a write-off, that was a write-off, and it was his own place. Plus, it made him responsible. Said, I don't want to lose this, I better train. I better do this and that, you know. I got to dedicate myself to keep everything going.
We talk about, and in boxing, what turned out to be one of Ali's greatest attributes, not just his hand speed, his foot speed, but his courage inside the ring. What about his courage as a man?
Well, you know what he went through with the draft and everything. You know, that took a lot of courage. He believed in something. And like I say, you know, he went against the war. Now, the rich people in Vietnam, they all went to Paris to live. Our guys went over and got killed. When the war was over, they went back, and there's still the rich people there. You know, like he said, they're not attacking me. They're not over here. If they was over here, I'd be on the front lines fighting. But why should I go over there and fight people who never insulted me or never called me names, you know? And it was the truth. If you break it down about the draft, in those days, The rich man's son went to college. He was deferred from the draft, a college education. He comes out of college, now he may get drafted. He takes a job teaching. He has a draft deferment. A fellow who wasn't that smart, he's in the service. Then when he bucked the draft, when Ali said, I'm not going, they said, we got to change the system. So now they're going to pull a pill, a number. And if they call that number, no matter who you are, you're going. All of a sudden, here's Gore's son, whose father was a big politician. And different people would get, they said, let's do away with the draft. So he helped abolish the draft because of him. People don't realize this.
In your opinion, what are Ali's greatest accomplishments as a prize fighter and, more importantly, as a man?
How much he respected his parents. There's not an athlete today. We'd go to the airport to meet his mom and dad, come back in. He'd say, we get regular rooms. My mom and dad they would give us the best suites in the hotel. He'd let my mom and dad stay there. We don't, as long as we have a good toilet, a good TV, a good phone, we're okay. Let them have it. You know, he loved his parents, loved his parents. As soon as he signed the bonus with the people in Louisville, he bought a Cadillac for his mother. You know, this is the type of guy he was. Always had loved his parents, loved his brother. And this is a great impression on me. And this is a great impression on all the other athletes that loved him. Jim Brown the same way. He said there's something special about this guy.
He had a lot of courage. The risk he had to take, and then to be isolated, to have his crown taken away, not be able to make a living, that was difficult. And to keep an attitude about himself, to keep that personality moving, even though inside he had to be suffering a lot.
Clay now faces a nomadic existence of uncertain duration, divided between courthouses and meeting houses all over America. His occupation's gone. He seems unlikely to box again for a long time.
How did he change your life?
Well, that's a good question. I was always kind and considerate, you know, so he hasn't changed that. But he introduced me to black people who had a lot of problems and a lot of poverty, you know, and I used to see it, I said, this shouldn't be. So that's what he introduced me to, and now I try to correct some of the poverty, some of the problems that black people have, and try to relate to them, and, you know, try to encourage them to get an education like he did, like John Elijah Muhammad did, get the education, they can't take it away. You know, he opened a lot of doors like that for me, a lot of reasoning.
He used to love to tape record conversations, and he would always say, I'm gonna tape you guys, and when you're older, you're gonna love these tapes. And he would always do it. So when my parents got divorced, he would call me up, how you doing in school? What are you doing? What do you wanna be when you grow up? He would always tell me time is gonna fly, you know, I'm gonna be older. I mean, he was just like, he could foresee things and knew how important those things would be.
Maryum, you're now 11 years old. Now, do you want to go to college?
Yes, sir.
Now, what do you want to do? Everything Allah made has a purpose. Trees have a purpose. What's the purpose of a cow?
To give us milk.
Okay, what's the purpose of the sun?
The sun.
Sun.
To give us lighting and heat.
And make things grow. So everything God made, cows, horses, the moon, stars, ants, everything has a purpose. Now what's your purpose? You're a human being. If God made the sun have a purpose, humans have a purpose too. You haven't found your life purpose yet, have you?
Yes.
If everybody's born for purpose, what do you think you were born for?
To make people feel better, to fix people up.
That's good. That's good, Maryum.
I'm going to start out by telling you the gal's story of when I first met Pops, your dad. I was outside the 5th Street gym waiting with my little Muhammad Ali jacket that, much to my mother's chagrin, I decorated Muhammad Cassius Clay Ali, and I waited and I saw him coming with another guy, and as soon as he saw me, he wrapped his arm around me, walked me up the rickety stairs to the 5th Street gym where he trained. He told them let this little white kid come in with me. And he took me back, and I kept talking, asking him questions. And at some point, when he was hitting the speed bag, he said, you know, little white boy, what do you want to be when you ever
Goodness
grow up?
gracious.
And I said, well, I want to be Muhammad like Johnny Carson because I just saw you on his show. And he said, you know what, little white boy, you will have your own show because you're just like me. You never shut up. And I do have my own show.
That's great.
I
love that.
So much of that.
I love that.
That day changed my life. Do you realize, either one should take this, how he changed so many lives?
You know what? It's funny you shared that story. So I just have to say that when we were working on The Soul of a Butterfly, my father's autobiography, 2004, I found out for the first time that one of the reasons why he thought it was so important to talk to little kids and to give them his full attention, not just that he's naturally that way, but he remembers how painful it was for him when his idol, Sugar Ray Robinson, wouldn't take the time to sign his autograph. He was on the way, he was 18, on the way to get the gold, and I think to win the Olympic gold medal. And he found out where Sugar Ray Robinson's club was, waited outside, saw his pink Cadillac, waited by the car until the club until I think 2 a.m. And when he came out, he said, "I'm sorry, kid, but I don't have time." And what that did that he said that it just hurt him so much that he just never wanted a fan to ever feel that. So I remember, and I really, it resonated with me how impactful that was, because when we were doing press, my father, there was like hundreds of people outside New York, and I remember in the car, he just had to close his eyes. He said, if they see I'm tired, they'll understand. I couldn't possibly sign all those autographs. You know, he couldn't even look at them.
Yeah, my father he's a loving person. He just, you'll have kids and they grow up and some kids will be a little bitter and feisty, and he's always been loving. That's his nature, and he always said, I wouldn't be anything without them buying a ticket. I wouldn't be anything without them going to my film or buying my book or supporting me. And I've seen him reprimand other celebrities for turning people down. So he just doesn't believe in that. And yes, he was Christian when he was a younger boy. He became Muslim, but in Christianity taught him Jesus' love, and he grabbed that. He was a Christian. You know what I'm saying? And Islam teaches love and peace as well. But like Hana was saying, he really is intuitive, and he wants to do right by people. It hurts his heart when he's doing wrong by people.
He had a wonderful ability too. I used to sit with him on his lap at fights on Miami Beach, and he just would make it feel like it was just you and him.
Yeah.
He had this
most definitely.
So
he paid attention to you.
He knows how to make you. That's how it was as a child too.
Yes.
He knows how to make you feel special. There was never, ever, ever, ever a time. I mean, I don't care if he's talking to the President Carter at the time, when he's making the tapes, when he's talking, it doesn't matter what's going on, his door was always open. I mean, there's on the recordings where Layla and I are cutting up, he says cutting up, making noise, and he's trying to, talk to important people, heads of state. And the governess has actually called to, you need me to come get Hana? Do you need me to come get Layla? No, it's okay. And he keeps telling us, be quiet, stop. He won't even send us out the room. So he enjoyed being a father. He loved being there. He made you feel important. He used to save our little scribbles, little things we would write on and say, this is going to be valuable. I'm saving this.
Visionary.
Yeah,
unbelievable. A pioneer in everything.
Yeah, he was a visionary. You realize that your dad was not just an ordinary dad.
It was phases for me. As a kid, I knew he was famous because crowds of people would ask for his autograph, and I saw him on television. That was common. But I didn't know the impact he had until maybe 15 or 16 years of personal stories of people saying, I didn't go to war because of your dad, or I stood up to my boss because of your dad. There's one guy, the most powerful story, we're at a diner. His father was KKK, and he said, Ali, I just have to tell you, I had to denounce my whole family and their beliefs in racism because I loved a black man, and that was you. And the man started crying. My dad was crying. I was crying. We're at this diner crying. I'm going, wow, my father was just not a social activist, or he didn't just fight for black people. I mean, all people love him. And those stories go on and on.
When I was a little girl, for me, I was 3, 4, I don't know, really, really young. And my first memory of really looking at my dad like, who is this man, is going through the airports. I used to love going through airports because the airport would just stop. The crowds would see him coming and everyone would just clap. And I remember thinking some people would be in tears, they'd be shaking his hands. People that didn't speak English would say thank you, he didn't go to the war. And it's imprinted in my mind because we traveled with him a lot growing up, Layla and me. And I remember just the crowds of people stopping in their tracks and just cheering him on and clapping, and all we were doing was walking through the airport. So that's my first memory of just knowing something's not, something's different here.
Yeah. I know education. He said something one time, and I use it, especially when when money's not flowing so good. He said, "Where is man's wealth? It's in his knowledge, because if it's in the bank,
it's not in the bank."
Yep,
anyway. You know that. Yep, that's one of his favorites.
I use it whenever I'm running out of money.
Yeah. Your wealth is in your knowledge.
So how important was education?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, education, he wanted us to be better educated than he was, you know what I'm saying? And very important, he wanted us to go to college and know what we want to do for a living. And, you know, all of his kids are hard workers. I'm a social worker. Hana works with youth with disabilities. We're not trust fund kids by any means. I mean, we've worked very hard for our money, and he, you know, we have a lot of honor in that.
And my father, you know, he thought it was very important to educate the spirit and the soul as well. He taught us that people go to school every day to learn different trades in life, but you have to work at being human, being humble, work on having a good heart, and that especially because you're my daughter, because the world is going to treat you better. You are going to have special treatments, you know. And in my experience, it's always only been better. So it's like, you know, he taught us that young, and he taught us how to just remember that, you know, the only thing that makes you better than anybody is how much you love and how good your heart is, and nothing else, because none of that matters. They can take away your title like they did for him. They can take away your titles in life, your cars. You can lose your cars. You can lose all. You can lose all your wealth. But you know, the spirit of who you are is what's the most important. To remember that.
We were in Deer Lake, Pennsylvania one time. There was a little boy there. He looked frail, and he wanted to meet Muhammad Ali. I said, no problem. And I brought the boy in and his dad. Muhammad looked at the boy and he said, why do you have this hot wool hat on? He said, it's so hot out there today. He said, I got leukemia and I lost all my hair. I'm getting this chemo. And Ali said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to beat George Foreman and you're going to beat leukemia. The boy looked at him. He said, oh, I hope you're right, Ali. I hope you're right. I went and I got my camera and I took a picture of the little boy and Ali, and I got the father's address. I had Ali write on the picture, I'm gonna beat George Foreman and you're gonna beat cancer. God bless you, Muhammad Ali.
Finally, my daughter called me from college the other day and crying, and she just had a bad dream of me being gone, me being dead. And it freaked me out. And she, what scares you most about losing your father?
For me, I just feel, I used to worry about my dad since forever, for a long time, and I've had a lot of trouble with it. And my mom actually sent me to a psychologist because of it, because we were super close when I was little and they got divorced. It was hard, and I always worried about him because I knew at a young age that something was not right. But I found peace, and Layla actually helps me with this, because she always says, you know, when Daddy goes, his spirit will be free. He's lived a wonderful life here. We love him to death, and he'll always be with us in spirit. So I try not to think about that. I enjoy him while he's here, and it's one of the reasons I moved to Michigan, because I just wanted to be with him as much as I could at the time. You know, it's 5-6 years I was living there, and it was like the best time of my life, just having those moments, you know, spending with him and living with him. And it's one of the reasons I call him all the time. Every day that he's on this planet, that he's here, is like a gift. And I just want to be a part of that day. I want him in the day, to be a part of my day.
My fear is that we're under a microscope. So when he passes, it's, you know, it's not going to be private. It's going to be big and everywhere. You know, so that's my biggest fear is how massive that's going to be for us. Yeah. It's beautiful in one sense, the world love him, but it's not very personal. So that, not, you know, I think we're like anyone else who loses a parent. It's devastating. But my fear is the dealing with that whole massive media attention of that.
Yeah, you got to turn the phones off.
Most definitely.
It'll be a massive loss to the world.
But let's not talk about that.
But you know, it's okay though, because the spirit goes on. It's okay.
We hope you've enjoyed this special preview of the upcoming documentary, I Am Ali. I Am Ali premieres in selected market theaters beginning October the 10th and will be released on DVD November the 11th.